Hey guys, this is Connor at Conquest HP, and here's some more of my training footage. This is all from last Thursday, March 23rd. Still, still 6 weeks, about 6 weeks out from my meet, so you'll see that pretty fast in this video, because I'm gonna do lots and lots of reps on my squats and on my deadlifts. And I'm going to pull that back quite a bit as we get a little bit closer to the meet and I'm dialing in that strength. So you can see right away I've got a pretty wide stance there. I think everyone would probably consider that wide. It's definitely wide for me. I'm doing that to kind of spare my quads just a little bit. It doesn't translate over to sparing the quads too much, but personally, I've had patellar tendon problems on both knees in the past, and I find that if I take a wider stance, I focus on sitting a little bit further back into my squat and keeping the tibia or the shin vertical as I do my squats. Sorry, it tends to take a lot of strain off my knee, so well worth it for me. Allows me to do more squatting on more days without knee pain. So that's a win-win, and I have the mobility to get to competition depth with that wide stance, which is also important. So that first set there, that would have been sorry, I got something in my throat here. Yeah, that would have been 275 that I'm hitting for 7 reps. Ugh, 7 reps. Who does that on squats? Cardio. I've got 285 here. Maybe this is why I was feeling beat up over the weekend. Pushing it pretty hard on this day. I tend to keep most of my training at slightly lower rep ranges than this, just because I find that I can handle a lot of volume between 3 and 6 reps, say. I can handle that pretty well, and I'm really awful at things above 6 reps. I'm just my strength tends to go out the window quite a bit, and I don't know that it carries over to my competitive lifts as much for 1 rep maxes for sure. So the whole point of getting in 7 rep sets like this is largely just to kind of create some extra hypertrophy, a little bit of a conditioning effect, a little endurance effect. Most of my days are going to be significantly lower rep than this, but I have these days in here, or this day rather, where I'm getting a lot of volume into the muscle, a little bit less intensity with the actual weight on the bar, as this is just 295 here. So it's still, I mean, still a decent amount of weight, still quite tough, but nowhere close to the weight I'd use for a 1 to 3 rep set. So I give my body a little bit of a break that way, give my knees a little bit of a break that way. Higher rep training tends to be a little bit more friendly on the joints, but like I said, I'm pretty awful at it, so I don't tend to do it that much. So I'm programmed for 4 sets of 7 here. That's pretty awful. I think by this point, I probably want to throw up. You won't see that if you keep watching. I don't actually throw up, but just know that I want to. And I've been playing around with my belts a little bit lately too. I have the Inzer single prong belt, which means I have to kind of crank it into position for every set, and sometimes there's a deeper notch to be found, and sometimes there isn't. And I've been eating a lot more lately, and that means having a bigger breakfast. And to be honest, that just translates to more food in the stomach and less space to find that competition notch, so to speak. So I think that you're seeing that here too. Can't get that belt quite as tight. There's only so much you can do to kind of wedge it in place. But look at that, no throw up, didn't collapse. Some benching. What is this? I never show anyone my benching because I'm not very good at benching. I've got pretty long arms. I'm not going to blame it on that. but my long arms definitely don't do me any favors on the bench. If I'm honest, the thing that's probably held back my benching most is that my focus was almost always on striking sports like Muay Thai, kickboxing, etc. So you're doing hundreds and hundreds of punches a day. Your shoulders and your arms are pretty beat up from that. So you don't really feel like doing tons of upper body pressing volume after that. In fact, you have to do lots of upper back work and mid back work just to kind of balance out those punches. So hitting bench 5 times a week is not really an option when you're doing that. But now it is, because I'm not doing that stuff anymore. So that first set there is a set of 2 at 225, walk in the park. Here's 255. Also a walk in the park, trying to make those nice and snappy. I think you can probably see on my face that I'm pretty tired already, the way I'm moving. Here's what I pair my benches with on this day. The pal-off press, slightly squatted position. I've just got a blue jump stretch band there, so just a little bit of tension, not a ton of tension. The whole idea is just to teach that torso or the deep core muscle to kind of resist rotation. So it's a useful training tool to enhance your squat, but also just to train the obliques and the deep core muscles and make sure you have a healthy spine. And it doesn't take away from your benching really if you're doing it with a nice light band like that. So that's a nice perk too. You don't want to really, in these cases, if you're competing in powerlifting, you don't want to do something, or don't want to superset where you're going to sabotage your main lift. So what have I got here? Got a nice big arch. Look at that. I can always tell when I have my best bench days because the arch will always be just a little bit better. That's 275 there, moving really well. So sometimes if I'm feeling stiff through my T-spine, I'll do some T-spine mobilizations, T-spine mobility work, just maybe 2 minutes as I'm kind of warming up my bench, just to make sure I can get a little deeper into that arch. I by no means have a crazy arch. I've seen some pretty wild arching in my day. I don't have that mobility, and I'm not going to force the issue too much because I'm kind of happy where I am, and I feel like I have a lot more development in the tank with this amount of arch here. So here's 285. Still looking good. Look at that bar speed. See, when I'm doing these, they feel like they're barely moving. So that's why I brought in the spotter here. Got 290 pounds, going for a double here. I don't think I've ever doubled 290 before. I could be wrong. My current working max, or my current all-time max rather, is 300 pounds. And that was a few years ago, to be honest, before I got into the martial arts as heavily as I did. And of course, I got into martial arts, and well, benching just isn't a priority then. So here's 2 at 290. Still pretty smooth. I've got to work on the cues for powerlifting. The cue to, or where you have to wait until you re-rack your bar. That's going to be something I have to dial in a little bit more before I compete. Here's 290 again. So it felt so good the first time. Thought I'd take another run at it, but I didn't feel I had enough in the tank to go 295 or 300 today, which is fine. I'm in this for the long haul. I don't need to make those gains today or tomorrow. If I make them next month or next year, the important thing is that I get them and that I'm not stupid with my training and kind of compromise my body now. So there, a little bit of movement through my hips, maybe legal, maybe not, but still happy with it. It's still a good lift at 290. Now we're back to 285, but my confidence is shot because my arms are probably shaken by this point. Still got the spotter in the mix. You'll notice too that I don't get too deep into knee flexion. You'll see sometimes that people really try to pull their feet back towards their shoulders when they're doing their benching, and that can give them a better arch and a lot more stability. But again, with my knees, so I've had patellar tendon problems on both sides, quad tendon problems. That position tends to aggravate my knees more than squatting, to be honest. So I'm not wearing my knee sleeves here, but most of the time when I do my benching, I wear my knee sleeves because like I said, that position tends to bother my knees more so than squatting even. But work with it if you can, right? I mean, if you can't get into that position, you can't get into that position. If it's going to cause you pain, it's not a realistic option. So I just work with what I have to work with here. Plus, as I said, I'm still making progress on these, so there's no reason to force the issue too much. There's 275 again, and this is another 275. So I tend to work up to a top set for the day, see what's in the tank, get as much as I can on that bar for at least one good set, and then back it off a little bit, make sure the movement quality is still there, make sure the bar speed is still there with a slightly lower weight, just because it's hard to maintain technique and bar speed at those near maximal weights or maximal weights. So you got to choose what you want to train, and I want to train perfect movement. I want to train sufficient bar speed to get me through, rather than grinding through my sticking points every single time. But to each their own, right? So you'll see a mix of rep ranges here. There's hitting 2s on the bench. So the way I have it periodized, that's my strength day for the bench, or my power day for the bench rather. And here with semi-sumo deads, normally I'm doing 4 sets of 5. But today, to be honest, I just didn't have enough time to do all 4 sets of 5, and I want to practice more of the full setup into the deadlift, getting down to the bar each time. So I've got 405 on the bar here, and I thought I would try to get 20 total reps in just the span of a few minutes, and just kind of do a full reset each time and see where I got. So pretty happy with my form here. You can see that there's some fatigue building up. This is a pretty taxing way to do your deadlifts too. This is conditioning. This is a little bit of speed work even. And this is close to the end of my workout too. Well, this is the end of my workout. So that's why there's only 405 on the bar when my max right now is 605 from just a couple weeks ago. Once again, it's a similar idea to the squats, just the way my week is kind of broken down. This is kind of the end of my training week for my lower body, so I'm getting lots of volume. For my lower body, there's 10 total reps at 405 for my first set. Sat down for about a minute, decided, hey, I have no time left. I've got to try to get in what I can get in now. Went right back into another set. Certainly not recovered, but you got to work with what you have to work with. Yeah, I'm happy with doing them this way. My goal is still to get 20 total reps. I end up cutting this one off at 5 total reps, so I only ended up with 15 total reps this weight. Didn't quite match volume from the week before, but time constraints and hitting singles instead of touch and go reps makes a huge difference, and I'm happy to have that difference for the extra practice I get. So don't forget to check out my other workout videos. You want to see how the rest of my week breaks down and the heavier lifts.